Hey there, Boozemeisters, and welcome back to the Peach Pod After Dark. I am Jeff, Domino's motherfucker, and joining me on the other end of the internet, my cuz-host.
I'm Leslie, and I'm white, so I don't feel like I can quote this movie.
It's real hard, isn't it? It's really, really hard.
I'm, and I had one, but I just don't feel comfortable. I'm never going to step into Angela Bassett's shoes. I would never try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I mean there's a lot of the most memorable moments of this movie are filled with words that we should not say.
Absolutely, with affectations that are not our own.
Exactly. Yeah, this is an interesting one. So what we're watching tonight is Boyz in the Hood, the 1991 John Singleton written and directed masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
Starring Ice Cube, Cuba Gooding Jr., Lawrence Fishburne, Angela Bassett, Morris Chestnut, Regina King, Nia Long. I mean, it's a murderer's row of talent in this movie. Just like wow,
Yeah.
Murderer's Row is a reference to the 1927 Yankees.
Thank you.
I can see by your face that you're like, it's a what now?
I'm just here for the ride, folks.
Yeah. So our spelling connection this week is obviously this is in relationship to season 2, episode 9, Ashes to Ashes, where we see all of the problems happening down there from all the way up here in Beverly Hills. And this movie talks about those things, but in that context, not in the context of rich white people looking in on it and commenting on it and how it affects them, but rather how it affects the actual people living in the actual place that 90210 is going, look at that over there.
I wonder if we could offer some insight that would be helpful.
Yeah, and I don't know that they did. I don't know that we will, but I think that, we talked about this in Ashes to Ashes, that I think they felt compelled to say something,
And I think that's worth... I don't want to just give people a clap on the back for doing the least, but
right.
When you don't have representation, when these stories aren't getting out there in any other way, and let's face it, we know the audience for 90210 is predominantly white.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we get kids and then people, how can we get this new generation, the young generation, to care about things outside of their world? Well, the characters have to meet people outside of their world.
Yeah.
But, of course, being a prime time network show, I think I used the right words there, they also can only do so much. And, hopefully this kind of episode inspired people to go watch movies like Boyz in the Hood.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I know, like, from my experience, I never knew a lot of movies like these existed.
Right. Yeah. And so the other spelling connection, by the way, just real quick, is Jesse Lawrence Ferguson was in an episode of Hotel, and Jesse Lawrence Ferguson plays the black cop. Yeah. And the other connection is Whitman Mayo, who is Grady himself from Sanford and Son. He plays he's like the old man at the Sermon on the Billboard, where like with the white gray beard.
Oh, he was on an episode of Full House.
Yes, he was. Yeah, because he was that guy. Like, he was famous from being in sitcoms in the 70s. Mm-hmm. So as the people who watched the sitcoms grew up, they were like, I want Grady in my thing, and John Singleton grew up during this, when the 70s Sanford and Son was on TV, and I mean, I'm assuming that he was like, that's Grady, and I like Grady.
Yeah.
Part of why he was cast. But
Can
I
we get
mean,
Grady?
yeah, Grady worked in a lot of different things throughout the '90s because kids were like, I remember that guy. He was great. So he ends up in this as well. And then, oh yeah, those were the two that connected us directly to Aaron Spelling doing our mission here.
Great.
And we talked about this when we were. It's so weird to do this because we recorded Ashes to Ashes like 2 months ago, but
Yes.
we just released it 2 days ago. So it's gonna like we're talking about something that happened a long time ago and trying to remember it when very probably you just heard us say this.
Yes.
So hashtag time machine.
But I did rewatch some of Ashes to Ashes
Okay.
for comparison's sake to kind of get an idea of the different lenses that I watched these.
Oh, that's interesting. Good. I
Yeah.
want to hear about that. But what I was going to say is that we talked about this. I know in Ashes to Ashes, the chronology of events of because in Ashes to Ashes they talk about Rodney King
Mm-hmm.
and the Rodney King beating that happened in March of 1991.
Yeah.
So Ashes to Ashes, which comes out in September, is written in response to Rodney King. Like
Yeah.
we need to. This is happening in our city. We need to tell a story that acknowledges that this is happening in our city,
Mm-hmm.
and they did it the way that they did it. But in between those two events, Boys in the Hood comes out in July of 1991, which means it was written well before Rodney King.
Okay.
It was probably recorded, filmed maybe the year before. Like who knows how long post production and things like that take. But it wasn't like Rodney King happened on March 3rd. They filmed a movie starting on April 15th and released it in July. Like that's not how things happen.
And Rodney King is not the first black man to be beaten by police. So, I mean,
Right.
That impetus wasn't necessary. Like
Exactly.
they had unfortunately, they had plenty of historical events or even less historical events to note or to pull information from. I don't know, pull experience
Just
from.
experience life, the reality. I mean, and that's what, to me, that's the big difference between these two things is Boys in the Hood is written and directed and the story is told from the perspective of someone who didn't need to see Rodney King to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was already happening. This was already life. This was already a reality that John Singleton wanted to portray in film so that it could be seen and it could be shown and it could be understood as much as, white kid in Indiana is going to understand anything.
Yep.
But I mean that I was part of the audience for this movie,
Yeah.
I wasn't the whole audience. It wasn't like we need to get semi-suburban Indiana children to understand what it's like in Compton or Crenshaw. That's not the point of the movie.
No.
But I was one of the people who was of a movie-going age when this happened who already liked Ice Cube, right? Because I already liked NWA. Because I already liked rap music. Like I was already the audience for a lot of this art. And you were like, two.
Yeah.
So, wasn't exactly targeted at you, but
Well, and like I've been thinking a lot about the stuff I grew up watching and the way, not even just how things were targeted to me, but I feel like I definitely had to kind of research outside of, I don't know, what I knew in order to find these movies. Or like, thankfully, Wonderful World of Disney that used to come on Sunday nights, I think did a
Uh-huh.
lot of like, maybe not a lot, but a lot for this kid at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of civil rights movies, and
Oh.
I ended up watching those a lot because I'm a big history nerd, always have been,
Mm-hmm.
and I would watch them, and because those were coming on the TV,
Mm-hmm.
anything that would have been at Blockbuster, yeah, I can't even think if I would have known to rent it or if I would have
Mm-hmm.
thought about it. Um, I'm sure if they had had more black musicals on film,
Mm-hmm.
then I would have watched those. But again, like grew up very sheltered and
Mm-hmm.
didn't know to look outside of my experience until
Mm-hmm.
maybe college.
It's really funny because I had the opposite experience almost.
Wow.
Because I was I was like in first grade when Thriller came out. So that is the age where you start to understand music and what you like, and that thing took over the world. So my first favorite music was Michael Jackson. It wasn't
Wow.
the Beatles, who are like my favorite now, but I still love Michael Jackson's music. But um, and then I was like 10 when Run DMC did Walk This Way with Aerosmith,
Mm,
which is like that's like this rock rap crossover that exposed the rap audience to the rock world, and kind of vice versa. Um, but I didn't really even know who Aerosmith was because they were kind of in a fallow period,
mm.
from like the late '70s to Walk This Way. So I didn't know who they were either. Like I liked it because of Run DMC, and I was like, I don't know who that white guy is who's screaming, but I'm not sure I'm into his vibe. But I ended up actually quite liking
That's
Aerosmith.
cool.
Yeah. So I got into rap, and then Yo MTV Raps was on after school. Like so, you get home from school, turn on MTV. Yo MTV Raps is on, and so I get like big into Public Enemy and De La Soul and NWA as much as I could because I was not going to be allowed to own Straight Outta Compton. That was not going to happen in my house.
I Yeah, I have a quick question, and
Yeah.
I don't. This may end up being cut out because I don't know how we feel about going into this personally, but like, because quite frankly, saying sheltered is being nice.
Uh-huh.
My parents kind of judged me for wanting to watch some of the stuff I did about
Oh,
other
weird.
backgrounds.
Huh.
They were like, "Why do you want to watch this sad stuff?"
Hmm.
Um, and it's unfortunately a lot of their stuff is sad because we hadn't gotten to the point where we were allowing them to also have like happy art, And
Hmm.
although that happy art did exist, I mean, like, oh my God. And it doesn't matter. I can't think of anything right
Were
now.
you going to say the Cosby Show? Because
I was not. No,
I mean,
what's the wedding? Wait, the best man?
I don't, maybe that's later though. That's like
It's,
in the '90s,
but still,
right?
that's what I'm trying
But
to say. Like,
yeah, but what I'm saying is that when I grew up, the number one TV show in America was about a black family.
thankfully, that's not the Black family I was watching. I was watching Family
Yeah,
Matters.
you're watching the Winslows. I know it's generational.
Yeah.
Um,
But
yeah,
yeah, so
and
like
yeah,
I was just wondering, like, your parents weren't like, why are you listening to this?
um, n- no, it wasn't. Why are you listening to this? It was you should not be listening to this.
Oh no.
Like, well, just because it lots of cussing,
Yeah.
which was just not okay, in my house.
Yeah.
Music with lots and lots of cursing was just never going to fly. And so all of these things that I owned because I also owned headphones.
Nice.
So I could listen to, and also because they didn't listen to the things that I bought to know that they were objectionable. The only
Oh.
thing that I ever had that my dad listened to and went, "You're taking this back," is it was Digital Underground's EP. this is an EP release. And they heard that and made me take it back. Had they heard Sex Packets, they would have had a big problem.
That's funny.
Because Sex Packets is filthy. I mean, it is joyously dirty, filthy.
As a packet would be that you have sex in. That would be filthy.
No, the Sex Packet is what the Sex Packet is. It's like a pill. You can either chew it up, like an Alka-Seltzer, dissolve it in a cup. You take this, see the girl on the cover, you black out, and she becomes your lover. You're tripping. No, I'm serious. These are authentic. Yeah, well, I don't take hallucinogenics. Wrong again, my man. This is way more real, but if you know everything, I'll make someone else a deal. He's the packet man.
Oh my God.
That is some. Sex packets are a hallucinogenic drug that makes you feel like you're having sex with whoever's on the cover of it.
Cool.
But then there's an amazing song called "Freaks of the Industry" that you 100% have to listen to, but not around any parents.
Oh, that'll be difficult for me. Not.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, if they'd heard Sex Packets, that would have been a big problem. But so long way to say, by the time Boyz n the Hood came out, I was interested in Ice Cube. I knew who he was. I knew that he was in a movie and that it was supposed to be good, but I don't think I saw it right away. I don't think I saw it for years. But culturally, I was aware of it.
Okay.
You know, but I would have been sheltered had I not had headphones. It's really what that's about.
Yeah, once I've started buying music, the 2 CDs I got that had like parental advisory on them,
Mm-hmm.
and I say this proudly, was Green Day's American Idiot in concert, and then
Nice.
Spring Awakening,
I don't know that one.
the Broadway musical. Oh, it's great.
I don't know
And
that
my mom looked at both of them and was like, I don't know that I should be letting you listen to this. And they gave it to me.
There you go.
Like, I did my job. I don't know.
That's right. I'm gonna go over here.
And I just knew not to belt out "Totally Fucked" in front of her.
Yeah. I had trouble after seeing Book of Mormon. There were lots of like little things that I would want to sing out loud that you're like, oh, you can't sing that. That's not okay to walk down the school hallway singing.
Hasadiga Iboai.
No, that one you could do. It was more like, no, Joseph.
Oh.
That you can't sing out loud. That one's
his magical fuck frog.
Yeah, you can't. Like that one, you just can't do that one.
I remember you singing that around Liam.
It was really, yeah. It's an earworm of a horrible thing to say.
Okay.
Yeah, which is why it's glorious. Yeah. So Boyz n the Hood is it's about 3 kids growing up in Crenshaw in 1991, right? And time machine wise, we also last week dropped our episode for Rebel Without a Cause, but we recorded it 2 days ago. So trippy. So it's interesting to me watching that and 90210 and this in such close proximity to one another because they talk about the same stuff.
And yet, okay, so I'm going to just create a little chart here of of the 3 art forms we've just witnessed from what do I want to say? Maybe the most realistic and dangerous in terms of like the violence the most violent, we'll say that. The violent storyline. Is that correct?
Okay. I mean, I guess the kicker is that kids end up dead in each of those 3 things.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, there's more violence in this one. There's gun violence instead of knife violence. Um, you
you
know,
know what? I'll skip the chart. What I really want to say is I find it interesting that of the three, the one from the 50s is not the least tough to watch.
okay.
It's not
Because
close
why did you expect it to be the toughest to watch? Like,
because
what about watching the '50s period piece version of this? Like outdated ideas and that kind of thing, or like what was it?
I think I assumed, like many do, that the 1950s was this posh, pillowy, protected
Oh, sure.
period.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, we know bad things happened, but
Right.
when we look back at art from that time, we don't see it as acknowledging of
Mm-hmm.
that. We
Right.
don't see, it's a real shame because there are artists from that time. There was art being made that was calling out the system, that was,
Mm-hmm.
trying to break barriers
Yeah. Yeah.
and go against the grain. But unfortunately, we have this like very vanilla uh,
Yeah.
frame of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We do. And so that's why you thought it would be more like upsetting that you're like you
I
would just
thought it
look
would
back
be
and go, oh,
less
that.
upsetting. I thought it would be less upsetting. Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't expect 90210 really to be upsetting because I'm like, again, it's white suburbia and it's
Right.
ridiculous. And unless a parent
And
is on, it's going to be okay.
but then Brenda slapped Andrea, and you met Chris Suter, and all bets were off.
I don't feel safe anymore. Um,
It's a
I'm
whole new world we're
to
in.
quote to quote Effie in Dreamgirls, I'm not home in my own home anymore.
No, not after Chris Suter.
No.
Um,
Ruined.
but like in watching this so close to watching Rebel Without a Cause, both movies are like focused on delinquency. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like teenagers fighting with each other, teenagers like exploring sex in some ways, very chaste in Rebel Without a Cause, and pretty chaste here too, to be honest. There's Trey's really silly fantasy that he
Yeah.
tries to play off as what really happened in his life, and then there's what really happened, which is pretty chaste. Um,
Yeah.
so like there's both of those things. Both of them have uh, girls and cars and boys and car racing and like just a big car culture.
We have to
Um,
fight each other to relate.
right, and then there's basically when Ricky's bumped into on Crenshaw, that's like Jim being called a chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same triggers and responses. It's
Mhm.
just that in Rebel Without a Cause there was a knife fight and a game of chicken that people drove off a cliff.
Women are still spoken of as if they're sluts.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you
Hoes
know,
gonna eat too.
Regina King tries to, is like, why do you always have to be calling us bitches and hoes?
Right.
Um, and I forget what his response is, but I mean, it's a
I,
fair
I think
question.
I think his response was because because you're a bitch is basically what his response was. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what else I'm supposed to say. Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was. And so they're very much they're telling the same things, and in both kids die.
Yeah.
Kids die. There's police violence on children in both of these movies. Like it's really crazy that 1955 and 1991 are thematically so similar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can it's the same city, but it's Beverly Hills versus Compton. It's wherever James Dean was supposed to be versus Crenshaw. It's the same city, but it's different parts of the
Oh
city.
my God.
So it's different experiences, but 35 years apart and they're saying these are the same. Kids are fighting the same battles.
Yeah.
You know, and across town at the exact same moment in time, we're watching these ridiculous rich children have these same kind of issues.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's car stuff. You know, Brandon in his car all over the place, car stuff, and then there's car stuff that you don't even know about later.
Yeah. Women being
There's
mistreated.
Yeah, there's frank and open discussion of sex, but it's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
But it's happening. There's the only sex you see is first time sex. Like
Yeah.
both of those things are in it's Boys in the Hood and 90210. They're giving those same things. But
But in
they're but
90210, the responsibility is put on the girls.
yes, all of the like this was like condoms versus ice cream. No ice cream and no ice cream in this movie.
No.
Just condoms.
No. They said you don't get any.
No ice cream for anybody.
There was an ice cream man.
Okay, so many condoms, one ice cream for this movie, if we're keeping track. But yes, you're right. All of the safe sex conversation was being told to the boys and
Mm-hmm.
not laid on the girls, which is different. But they're still having that conversation. You know, like it's still these are the things that teenagers are doing. You know, and
true.
and they're doing them like we've seen all of Brenda's crazy ass dream sequences. Are they any less grounded in reality than Trey's?
No.
Like they're all silly ass dream sequences. It's kids not understanding what it is they're imagining, so what they imagine is bonkers.
Yeah.
You know, and even I think that kind of thing is going on in the planetarium in Rebel Without a Cause, where not the sex stuff so much, but like this is too big. You know, all of this is outside of my understanding.
Well, and I think in all of these instances too, maybe less so in Boys in the Hood, but you have the adults trying to scare the kids about stuff bigger than them,
Mm-hmm.
which I get it. Like, I get why you want to do that. So, but it's not an effective way to keep them from fighting and killing each other.
No, you need a war. Remember, if there's a war, then they can go fight the war. But if there's each other, well, they got to fight each other.
Well,
I mean,
and in
that's
the
what.
case of Boys in the Hood, Lawrence Fishburne's monologue about like they made us fight each other.
Uh huh.
And like
Yeah.
the helicopter overhead the whole time.
The whole and sirens constantly.
Well, sirens, I don't know why, but the helicopter made me think of a war zone
Uh huh.
and how eventually, you know, I think it was Ice Cube's character talking about how on the news they were talking about war-torn countries, but then they
Uh
don't
huh.
realize that the shit's happening in our own backyard. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think his line was around they either don't know, show, or don't care.
Yeah. If they don't know, don't show, or don't care what's going on in the hood.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's the thesis of the movie.
yeah,
You know, and that's what's happening with Brandon and Reese and Tamale Heaven and whatever else in Ashes to Ashes and finger popping.
mm-hmm.
It's I lost my train of thought there when I said finger popping. Where were we? We were talking about
How the adults were giving the kids something bigger than themselves
oh yeah.
to fear as a way to keep. I don't know if they mean it as a way. I think it's a way to get them to grow up faster and stop these petty fights, except these fights, I don't want to say they're not petty, but this is what people so quickly forget, and I'm sorry, I already hit the desk. But this shit that teens and young adults are mad about is so real
Mm-hmm.
to them.
Sure. Oh yeah.
It's so real to them. And you can't act like you're above it just because your shit is so big to you now. Guess what?
Right.
When you're older, like, your parents probably think the shit that you're freaked out about right now is small beans. Just
Right.
like just like we think whatever kids are going through is small beans. Like,
Right.
it's all minute when we get
Unless
to
it's
something
happening to
bigger.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only minor surgery is surgery that's happening to somebody else.
Although I feel like in Boys in the Hood, everything was big beans from the get go. I mean, you have
Uh-huh.
kids seeing dead bodies
Mm-hmm.
and talking about, like, oh, did you hear the shooting last night? Yeah, I got under my bed. Like, coward. Like, what? I mean, it made me immediately think about how crazy it is that people are so afraid of their children being taught correct history when
Right.
there are
Right.
children in this country being taught how to
Mm-hmm.
survive.
Right. Well, you know what it made me think of specifically is um, Stand by Me.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my God,
I
it's
know.
it's wonderful. Um, but the whole plot of Stand by Me is three 12-year-olds, basically.
Mm.
Uh, hey, do you want to go see a dead body?
Oh my god.
And they go on this journey to see a dead body, and they say exactly the same thing in Boys in the Hood. Hey, do you want to see a dead body? But instead of having to take an entire day's trip where you have to cross a railroad track and go down by the river, and you just have to go in this parking lot over here.
Oh my god.
But it's I think that was a direct reference to Stand by Me.
Oh, okay.
The way that he had that line set up and showing that it is not a day's journey for these kids. It's
Yeah.
around the corner. We're having that same coming of age experience of like curiosity and going to see this dead body that you heard about. But one of them is this big thing that takes like the entire movie and it's the whole point. And this other one is this 35-second scene at the beginning of the movie where the big takeaway is Ricky almost lost his football.
Yeah.
Like this thing is so part of the fabric of what these kids are growing up, and it's not the biggest thing they're going to deal with. It's the thing that happened the day Ricky lost his football.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and but I just think the coming of age stuff is so universal, even though it's packed into all these other things.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just it's interesting to me that the way that, and I never sort of noticed that stuff before, but it's just very much a coming of age movie where the area that you're coming of age in may not let you come of age.
I I mean, from the first words on the screen, because they start with a preface in a way, saying like
Mm-hmm.
1 in 21 black men will die. Or,
Mm-hmm. Of murder or something, I think it was.
yeah, wait,
It was worded really weird. It was like, will be murdered at some point in their life. And I'm like, well, I know the point. It's the end point. Like, there's
but
being
then when
murdered
they
is in the
mention
middle.
that I was thrown off at first by them mentioning the fact that it's most of the time by other black men. Because,
Right.
of course, we live in a world today where they have extorted that idea
Right.
or think that that's the only, like, whenever you try to bring up police violence, people immediately want to go to, well, what about black on black crime? And it's like, okay,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
who do you think started that?
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that's part of what you get in this movie that you don't get other in these other things.
Yeah.
There's like, although you do get a fair amount of preachiness out of Brandon. And like the cancer episode where they're just reading cancer pamphlets at us down the barrel of the lens. This movie was it was a story about all of these things, about this reality. But then there was that one scene, the sermon at the billboard, which seemed to me pretty, but it's like, it's powerful in the presentation of the idea that he's putting out there. As a story point, it's weird because suddenly he's giving a speech. Like, it's all of these ideas that it feels like Singleton wanted to get into this movie because they're important, but they didn't really fit in any kind of story way. So they had to be this, like, he takes them to a different neighborhood to show them this billboard, and then all of a sudden people start coming up and listening.
So I realized, because I think there are a few moments that feel slightly disjointed in this movie.
Uh-huh.
And I wonder, that feels almost like a play.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of, people tend to think of plays as, straight through, just watching people talk, watching people live their lives. A lot of times anymore, the play I'm in right now included, they like to find ways to insert musical talents of various actors or like a dance. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. And I think in a movie like this, so like a lot of old musicals too do a thing called a dream ballet. And I feel like there's a montage moment. It's a different type of montage, but it shows all of them living out their lives, like a nice moment, a nice day in their lives.
Yeah.
I think you know where I'm going.
When they're kids, right?
It's when they're teens, actually.
Oh, okay.
Like Trey's going to school, Ricky's doing football things.
Doughboy
I forget what Doughboy's doing. I think he's, trying to get by. He's not quite.
Or like, are you so like the day that ends with them meeting up at Crenshaw?
Maybe.
I think that's when you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there was that moment, which kind of feels like a dream ballet to me. And then Lawrence Fishburne's monologue moment could be interpreted as a soliloquy, if you will.
Kinda, yeah. And then like there's a little bit of a fantastical nature to the idea of a crowd appearing.
Yeah.
To listen to him orate.
Because, granted, a soliloquy is usually not done to anyone. It is, a person kind of as an aside. But it feels more like a soliloquy than just a plain old monologue,
Right. Yeah. To me, it feels like a sermon.
Yeah.
Like it feels like he's delivering a message to everybody. Like to Ricky and to Trey, but also to Grady and all of the other people who came up along the sidewalk while he was talking, and to the audience.
Yeah.
And to you and me now. Like, there's a possibility that if someone were to watch Boyz n the Hood today, that would be the first time that they would have been presented with the idea of gentrification. As like something that someone was talking about, not something that they'd seen in action, because you see it, if you live in a city, you see it all of the time. You'll be driving through a neighborhood and like, oh shit, there's a Starbucks.
Yeah.
That's the first sign of gentrification. And I've lived in Chicago for 25 years and I've seen a lot of first Starbucks.
I've heard the other sign is when white women start running, then the rent is about to go up.
Yeah, yep. I mean, that shit is true.
Yeah.
But so people have seen it, but to see it explained the way that he does it could very possibly be the first time you heard it, which means that for sure in 1991 it was the first time I'd heard it.
Yeah.
So it like. And, you said the first words that came up on the screen. What I thought of was stop.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because the opening shot of the movie is the stop sign. Like, he's not being subtle.
No.
It is, I'm there's a message here, and the
Well,
message is stop.
and I don't think you could, when given the opportunity to finally make a movie like this. I think you have
Right.
to take it for everything they're going to let you do,
Mm-hmm.
and be a heavy hitter with it.
Yeah. Well, and it worked
Yeah.
because it was nominated for 2 Oscars,
Wow.
Best Director and Best Writing.
I saw that.
So yeah, it landed hard with people. I mean, Critics Awards, um, MTV Movie Awards, the important ones. Everyone, was it Best Kiss? Let's see what it was. Oh, Best
What?
Movie,
Oh,
Best Movie, and Best New Filmmaker. No, I was just. Doesn't the MTV Movie Awards have a Best Kiss? I think they do.
that are the People's Choice Awards, and it's silly.
Yeah. Um,
They should stop
so
handing
yeah.
that out until they start acknowledging intimacy coordinators. Just saying.
Well, so let's have some adventures in intimacy here.
Hey.
How was the intimacy in this movie? Was there something that struck you as being really good or really off, or
I'm gonna first call out the really bad thing I saw, which was
hoes got to eat too?
no.
Oh, I mean, as one example of many, many times that was said.
No. When Morris Chestnut at the barbecue goes in to kiss his girlfriend, you see his whole ass tongue.
Oh, it is all tongue. He leads with tongue.
And I went,
We call.
Nope.
I hate to do this to you, but that's what I call the Tory spelling.
Oh no.
College age Tory spelling leads with the tongue, like a fuck ton. Yep. So I noticed that too, and I'm not a trained intimacy coordinator.
Dear
I noticed.
listeners, don't French anyone.
Don't lead with the tongue. Don't lead with the tongue.
Yeah, don't. No, just don't. Like, I'm still bothered when the fact that I always have to tell actors, and I mean, actors nowadays are like, oh yeah, of course we don't use tongue, and I'm like, yep, but I bet you have. And I
Sure,
bet
I'm sure. Yeah.
And in my head, I'm thinking to the guys, sorry to be sexist, but like, and I bet you've snuck it in one of your co-actors' mouths. Gross. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not dating them. This is work.
Unless you're Brandon and Emily.
I mean,
in which case you are dating them, and
unless
it is
you
work.
both have agreed upon it, and
right.
maybe it's for comedic relief. Sure.
Right.
Yeah. So that was. Oh my God, Jeff, stop. Weird.
I'm making faces. I'm making faces.
Rolling his tongue at me, and I'm like, I miss that gene because I can't do it. Ashley.
Oh, you can't do it?
No.
In your face. People, yeah, you couldn't do it. That's just a tongue hanging out.
I know. That's all I can do.
And so, what was good? If having a strong Tory spelling wasn't so good, what was good?
I thought what was really cool. I want to compare and contrast the 2 different Trey sex scenes we got.
Sure.
Yeah, because I think they're both worth noting. So the first one, I totally didn't get at first that it was fake, that he was just telling this outlandish story. I was like, this sounds real. This sounds real to me. And I mean, so it's well lit. It's got, some humor to it. It's well told, and like the moves are really smooth, like both people know what they're doing. But then you see what really happens on his first time. And it's sweeter, honestly, because it's not as smooth. It's more protected. Like, she's more covered. You still see some of her torso, but she's in shadow. Like, her face is in shadow. He's really, like, in the dark, which you would be your first time. You don't know what you're doing. So...
Well, and I think they're two very different intentions in those sex scenes. Like the Trey story one is about what a baller he is, and like, ooh boy, I get the ladies. And the other one, the real one, is about comforting each other,
Yeah.
and because he just had this horrible experience, and he is a raw nerve,
Yeah.
and never thought he would cry in front of a female, and like that whole scene is him just open wide.
Yeah.
And so the sex that happens is not player sex. It is person sex. It's people sex.
It's
It's real.
survivor sex in a
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah.
It makes me think of in West Side Story and Romeo and Juliet again, teen death.
Hmm.
These kids have been fighting each other, and then what does the young couple do? They have sex for the first time because, like,
Right.
to quote Emily Valentine, there's only one thing I want to do before I die.
That's right. And again, right after
Oh
death.
my God, Jesus!
I'm saying these things are so similar. It's weird
Wow.
because when Scott died, you did not go, "What the fuck?" I mean, you did, but it didn't hurt.
Yeah.
When Ricky dies, it hurts. Like, I've seen this movie half a dozen times. I know what happens, and I still found myself affected deeply by it when Ricky died, in ways that I was not affected by it when Plato died or when Scott died.
Yeah.
So it's like those. I think what it means is that we're more connected to the story being told in Boys in the Hood and the way that it's told than we are in the Salminio or the
Well,
Scott on his birthday.
it's an odyssey for him and Trey trying to get out of there
Right.
unscathed.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Ricky, kind of the golden boy of Crenshaw, the fact that he doesn't make it.
Yeah.
You want I feel like you want all of them to, but like Ricky is the movie wants us to root for Ricky and Trey more than anything.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that it is the thing that was like the most gut punchy to me was that Doughboy died 2 weeks later.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Where like you see that because you're not left feeling like he has survived anything, even before that title card. You get him, just sad
But
about the shit that he's done and experienced, and like.
I think you see a part of him die when he avenges Ricky.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, who knows how he died, but I'm sure he contributed to it in some way, either by the actions of the night before or something else he got himself involved in, because he is broken now.
Yeah.
I mean, he lost his family. He lost his brother and his mother, and he killed 3 people. Yeah. And you're not the same after those things happen. That's...
In the scene where he was fighting Ricky on the front lawn and the mom breaks them up, I thought he was asking her, "Why did you have me?"
Oh, why'd you hit me?
Yeah.
Why'd you hit me? Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, they both work.
Yeah.
And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they had him slip that in there or wanted him to, like, sort of say it.
Oh, sure.
I don't know. But my God, that I knew it was going to be tough, but I knew it was going to be tough in like again, you can only know so much going into it. It's just like, it felt like when you go into a movie about the Holocaust, it's going to be rough, and then you see the atrocities being done, and you're just wondering the whole time, how can humans do this to each other?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But at least with the Holocaust.
Oh Lord,
that's over.
Okay, I can't wait to see where that sentence goes.
No, at least It's not, though. That's the thing. It's not. There
Yeah,
are atrocities still happening to Jewish
of
communities
course.
abroad. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know what you're saying. Um, so, would you like to step off of the streets of Crenshaw into Needle Drop Forest with me?
Oh, yeah, please.
Okay, so there were two things. Did you get when I texted you the songs?
I did. I was listening to them right before we started.
Okay, so the first one is the title of the movie, Boys in the Hood. It's a 1987 Easy E song that was written by Ice Cube.
Okay.
So yeah, so I that's where the movie took its title from, and that song doesn't appear in the movie at all. But um, I wanted that song, and then another song that didn't appear in the movie. Are had prior to this, did you know the song "I Love L.A." by Randy Newman?
I did not.
Okay, it's a kick in the pants. That song,
Yeah.
big nasty redhead by my side.
The
Um, so
one
that
who
song,
stole Jolene's man.
I don't did he? I don't know. Um, he so I Love LA was like the theme song for the 1984 Olympics.
Oh.
Yeah, like it's I mean I think it existed. I can't remember if it pre-existed it or if he wrote it around the time of the Olympics, but it was like all the commercials were like I love it. And it's like Jack Nicholson doing his by the Lakers and Diane Cannon by the side of the court and
Wow.
all these LA things and it was like this is Los Angeles. I love LA
Oh, dear.
and LA Law and like all of those kinds of things. To a lesser extent, the Beverly Hillbillies. But that's what my image of LA and California was. It was Kermit the Frog trying to get a rich and famous contract. You
Yeah.
know, Hollywood. Hey, don't you ever go to the movies? Like that's what LA was. In song and in film and on television. That's what LA was.
Movie stars.
Yeah, glitz and glamour and money and the pictures. Um, until, for me, NWA came out and Easy E and songs like Boys in the Hood and albums like Straight Outta Compton, which showed that LA wasn't only this thing that I'd been fed.
Yeah.
It wasn't only I love LA. It's that. It's that. That's there. It's also the boys in the hood are always hard. Keep talking that trash and we'll pull your card. Like it it's both of those things. And then it's 90210
Yeah.
and it's boys in the hood. And it's the things that you're seeing on TV. You're seeing the riots in Los Angeles. And then you're seeing the OJ car chase from Brentwood. Like, it wasn't until Boys in the Hood and the music of NWA that I think you started to see two sides of Los Angeles
Yeah.
in art. And it both are, to the extent that they are true.
Yeah.
You know, they're filmic representations of these things, but that's all of it.
Yeah.
And prior to Boys in the Hood, not as far as I knew.
Because we only show the white lens for each of these cities.
Sure.
You know? We show the smallest sliver of what each city is about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
crazy.
yeah. So yeah, that was what I thought of music wise with this movie. I mean, the soundtrack is predominantly hip hop. It's it's a lot of Ice Cube and Yo Yo and Tony is on it. None of them are named Tony. Did you know that? This is a thing I learned like 3 years ago. This is a band from 1990 called Tony. They're awesome. Not a single one of them is named Tony. and I didn't learn that until like 3 years ago. And
Yeah.
I was like, how did I not know this? And also, damn them for lying to me. They at least one of those guys should be called Tony, for God's sake. But none of them.
Maybe their middle name.
Oh, I don't think so. I think it was a ruse. Tony was a ruse, and it worked. All right, what else time? What else you got?
So, Oh, I noted when they talked about how the SATs are culturally biased. I was like,
Yes, Shaq.
Blue Chips and Shaq.
That's right.
Gosh. I wrote down at one point, I was like, because as I was watching it, I thought, 902 has got to be so offensive to Black people. Like,
well, it's kind of offensive to me the way they deal with race, which I think I point out kind of all the time.
Yeah,
but
and I mean,
it's a mess.
It is a mess. Again,
yeah.
the fact that we think that this would be the experience. And here's the thing too: we are middle class. I'm probably not even middle class, to be honest. Like, I'm a poor artist. Let's just be real.
Right.
I forget where I was going. Oh, so yeah, like the problems that these kids face, I'm just like, give me a break. But like I said earlier, they are real to these kids. Your problems are your problems.
One of the things that I wanted to, what else about? Have you seen Swingers?
No.
Okay, well, we're going to have to watch Swingers at some point.
Yep.
So you'll get this when it happens because you've seen Boyz in the Hood now. But there's a scene where one character tries to get tough in a parking lot, kind of very similar to the Ice-T. We got a problem here. That scene, like the guy sort of does this, and the other guys run away, and it's Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau, and I mean like super silly white crew of actors. The characters are actors.
Yeah.
Like they're like trying to make it. And Vince Vaughn turns to him and he's like, "You asshole," or I think Mikey says it, "You asshole. Haven't you seen Boyz in the Hood? Now one of us is gonna get shot."
Oh no.
It's so funny. So of course when I see this, I think of that scene from Swingers.
When I was watching or rewatching some of Ashes to Ashes, I don't think this is necessarily a realization, but I thought I noted how they were trying to give us, I guess, a palatable Black experience. Hence why they have, a rich Black family move into Beverly Hills. Kind of, I don't know. I feel like maybe perpetuating the trope of the good ones.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, that's.
And.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that I said that on Wednesday, 2 months ago.
Maybe
because about the idea that that what happens to Devo could happen to the good ones too, like that whole idea that he gets pulled over by the security patrol,
and the fact that Mr. Ash calls Devo a thug, and that we can't have Black men supporting other Black men. You hardly see him acknowledge his son. It's almost like he hates himself.
I remember what I was going to say a few minutes ago because you brought up Ashes to Ashes. I hope that it was really fucking interesting to watch these two things in close juxtaposition to one another. Because we didn't. You did a little bit because you went back and watched Ashes to Ashes. But I hope that someone this week watched Ashes to Ashes and Boyz in the Hood and just watched them near each other.
Yeah.
To see the vast difference between those two things and the way that it happened and was executed, these stories. But I did have one other what else.
Okay.
Is Reva Stiles Iris McKay? Is Trey's mom Dylan's mom?
Oh no, I don't think so. No, not at
But we
all.
judge the shit out of Iris, but definitely we don't judge the shit out of Reva. But they both kind of do the same thing. They both leave their kid with the father to go better their lives.
Okay, but Reva,
Right?
her point makes sense because this was the quote I was going to use. I'm going to defend Angela Bassett, any character she plays, because I love this woman and I
Oh,
don't
she's
think,
great.
yeah. And granted, she did want to better her life, but I think she made a great point, which is not
When
to
she
say
was
that
in
when
the
she was
diner,
telling him, when she was,
or not the diner, the restaurant.
no, when she drops him off and Furious is sitting in the car with her and she goes,
Oh, it
I
happens in the
can't,
car. Yeah, I know what you're talking
I
about.
can't teach him how to be a man.
Right.
And while I don't want to believe that you need, a man and a woman to raise a child,
Right.
I don't want to believe
Right.
that. I think for their particular situation and the way the world he's growing up in, there's a particular type of man. There's a particular type of role model he's going to need.
Right.
And she knew she couldn't be that. And I respect her for knowing that.
Yeah.
I think she tried her best. Iris doesn't try shit.
No, Iris does not try shit.
Iris is
She
just
lives
like,
in a treehouse.
I tried one thing and I can't do it again. I'm going back to Hawaii and live on my pineapple mountain.
Your Iris McKay is pretty solid.
Thank you. And
I'm a big fan.
Thank you. It's I've been getting back into acting makes everything else stronger. So thank you for that.
Your Iris, I'm a big fan of your Iris McKay.
I don't for 1 second think Iris even thought about he needs to be raised by a man.
No, I'm certain. I'm certain the motivations are quite different.
Yeah.
The scene, the thing I thought you were going to talk about just there was when Reva tells Furious, "You stepped up." That's more than a lot of men do, but that's what every woman has had to do forever. So don't act like you're special.
That too, loved that. It's like,
yeah,
no, that was great.
Yeah, that's why I thought. That's where I thought you were going to go with it.
The bar is so low. The bar is so low for men.
Yeah.
That's why we can't give out gold stars like we used to. Sorry.
No, everybody can have a gold star if they want. I don't care.
Wow.
Enjoy your sparkly little gold stars. Enjoy your gold stars, everybody. What is this the EST of for you?
Oh my god, I didn't even think of ESTs. I finished the movie and was just stuck to my seat, and I thought, I don't know how to continue with my day.
Yeah, it's a heavy one. It's the hardest to quote for you.
I'm not going there. I'm not getting canceled.
No.
Not for this.
I chose one of the few things I could choose from this movie, and it had the word motherfucker in it. So
yeah. I don't know, because I always try to pick something that would actually end in EST as well, but I know that the rules...
it's superlative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most important films of the 90s.
It very much sets the tone for a type of filmmaking in the 90s. And I think it's one of... It's maybe the most of its moment. Because of its proximity to Rodney King. Happening between the killing and the riots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this movie came out in between those two things. It makes it very timely.
Yeah.
So the timeliest, possibly.
Timeliest. Yeah, I'm going to need to keep thinking. Not that I need more than one, but...
There's this other thing that I've noticed that is interesting to me, and it's there are people that my mom is a fan of now that she most 100% sure in 1988, 1991 would have told me to sell that record. My mom likes LL Cool J.
What?
Well, sure, because he's on NCIS, whatever he's on.
I knew it. My mom does too.
Okay, right. My mom loves Queen Latifah.
Okay.
My mom has never heard Ladies First.
Wow.
My mom does not know about Queen Latifah as a rapper. She knows about her from Chicago and The Equalizer. My mom knows who Ice-T is. Not from Colors.
No.
Right? But from whichever of those
Law
shows
Order,
he's played that. Yeah, Law and Order show that he's played a cop for like the last 150 years. My mom probably likes Ice Cube because he's done a whole bunch of family-friendly, like, go into the woods with teddy bears movies and shit.
He has. My
mom does not know Doughboy. She does not know America's Most Wanted or like anything from NWA. My mom, no, you're not listening to Fuck the Police. Like, that's not happening.
No.
I like this Ice Cube movie. Like, that is a thing that is not true of Steven Tyler from Aerosmith. Mm-hmm. Like, people that my mom thought were scuzzy in the 80s that were rock stars did not become family-friendly movie stars.
No.
But like a million rappers did.
Yeah.
Like it just kept happening. Snoop Dogg hangs out with Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing because it's not true of the guys in Devo or whatever, or Vince Neil from Motley Crue. And like, yeah. Tommy Lee is still Tommy Lee.
Yeah.
He's not. LL Cool J is the guy in NCIS now, and that whole thing has marveled me for so long, knowing for a fact that I would have been told to turn that off.
Well, and I mean, you inadvertently raise the point of white people don't feel like they have to change their image or become more palatable to other groups. You know,
I also think that, like, Will Smith. Sorry, there's another one before he slapped Chris Rock. But there's another rapper who became like massive TV movie star. I think it's also because these rappers were just way more talented than the rock musicians.
Absolutely,
like,
but you know that there was
depth of talent
them too. Like, hey, let's expand your range. You're good at this. Also, here's how we get white people's money.
Well,
although they probably already were, because white people like rap too, and we'll try to commandeer it. Or
the number of cassette tapes I had that were rap music, it was more than just about anything else.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was a big rap fan in the late 80s.
Yeah, I'm gonna make people shake their heads, but it took Hamilton for me to be like,
yeah.
Listen, I just need a musical of some things, and then I get it.
I get it. I recommend just learning about the rappers from where you live right now.
I know, I really should.
Just that borough alone.
I'm living where it's born.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's you live in a special place musically.
Someone blast of music right outside right now.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so I think that it can safely be said that once again we have proven my theory that everything comes back to Aaron Spelling.
Even Boyz n the Hood.
Even Boyz n the Hood.
Who knew?
Got a problem here? I knew, because everything. It's literally everything. All right, next week. We're going a different direction, but we're talking about Iris. So,
God.
Yeah.
My impression again. Yay.
Yep. So next week, in connection with Necessity as a Mother, the first appearance of Iris McKay and the quick exit of Iris McKay, we're going to watch Color of Money.
Color of Money. Never seen it.
It's really, really good. And we're going to watch it because Dylan plays pool.
I was
And
going to
pool
say that has nothing to do with moms.
No, it's because Dylan spent half the episode in a pool hall, which is pool is bad.
Trouble with a
guys.
capital T that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool.
That's what I'm saying, and that's is a theme. Like every time Dylan shows up in a pool hall, watch out because bad stuff's going to happen.
That was me rapping.
I liked it. Yeah, it's that's you know what you do Queens proud.
Thank you.
All right. Until then, Boozemeisters.
Cheers.
Cheers.